This is a panel discussion on how ChatGPT and AI can drive innovation, engagement, and donations. All right, so since this is a panel discussion, you do not need to hold your questions. Feel free to submit them, and we will discuss it live here. So feel free to chime in whenever you feel comfortable, or whenever you have a question. So there's been a lot in the news lately about AI and everything going on. So this is an exciting time for it. And most recently there was 1,000 tech leaders who came together and put together a letter that said, hey, let's hold for 6 months and decide how this is going to impact society. So this is our panelists here. This is going to be the nonprofit leaders who are going to discuss, hey, what should we do with it? And should we hold on it? Or should we use it to our advantage and make money for a good cause? So I will let our panelists introduce themselves and give us a little background on their experience with AI, since it is varying. So let's hear from, let's start with Karen.
Karen Sivright from HJC. I would say limited experience with AI, but broad experience with technology and technology implementation. In another life, I was an engineer, and my approach is going to be very cautious. So you'll hear that from me. Oh, and I'm the managing partner at HJC.
Hi, George Irish at Amnesty International Canada, digital strategist. I got into AI kind of as a COVID thing when I was sitting at home with not much to do, and I took courses. But hey, what happened in the last 6 months? It's really going crazy. We have been at Amnesty exploring different aspects of it with data, with ChatGPT, some of that stuff. So. Experimenting so far.
Trevor Rickman, I'm the lead strategist at EBU Digital. I think George sort of hit it on the head. There's certainly been an influx in this sector, and we, as agency partners, I think have an opportunity to dive into these spaces in a way that you working on the client side don't often get to, because there's a million other things that you have to do on a day-to-day basis. So certainly experimentation is a good word.
I'm Charlotte. I'm with Veterinarians Without Borders Canada, and I am the Director of Development and Communications there. Our experience with AI so far is a lot of experimentation, but we're implementing, and I am the opposite of Karen. We are going full on. So
we talked about this a lot last night, over a lot of alcohol.
Yeah, it's been really good so far.
Great. So when you say full on, what does that mean?
So I've just come on to the organization. We did some work with Ukraine, and that brought the organization to a whole different level where they were just doing grant work before. So now they're doing a whole new era. So it needs a lot of policy writing, and none of that was done. But boy, was that fast and easy. All of our policies are now written and, of course, edited and proofed. Everything that comes out of ChatGPT is a draft and needs to be edited. But policy writing is something that I highly recommend for it. Something that I was talking with our friends here, Oceans North, the major underutilized tool with ChatGPT, and actually easier to use. Humata is the tool to use for this, but uploading all of your scientific papers, any academic research you have, and actually being, instead of just being in a PDF on your website that no one can search and no one can find and no one can read and no one can understand, you can actually just get that written out in an SEO optimized page for anyone to find and research and get to, which is so huge, I think, for anyone that has kind of the science side in their organization.
What was that called again?
Humata, Humata. Yeah, very, very good stuff. But we'll put it in our handout, Karen.
Yeah, we developed a drunken handout for you that we're going to edit tonight, so it's not so drunken.
So I got to know, as you were thinking through using Chat or Humano for that purpose, Karen, what did you say in terms of? And did you have any reservations? Did you say, "Hey, hold on, maybe don't do that"? What? Because you mentioned you chatted about it.
Oh, we chatted about it a lot. Yeah. No. First of all, we talked about the range of AI options available, which I classify as good to bad. Or maybe good to open or closed to open. So you have AI like the AI that has been developed very diligently by engaging networks. And we actually, George and I talked about that too. Not last night. But that AI is, I would characterize as black box AI. So I like it because no one can see what's going on in there. They can't get to your data. But you get useful information in aggregate from other people's campaigns and data, and you can use it for your purposes. Is that correct? Okay. George does not like it because it's a black box and he can't see how it works. I'm okay with that. And the second kind of AI is semi-private AI. And that now is ChatGPT, when you turn off your chat, when you don't put in any private data, and when you manage it. So semi-private, when you're not putting in there that you don't want anyone else to have. And then there's fully open ChatGPT, where you don't manage it, you put everything up there and then anyone can use it. So what was the question again? What did we say? Yeah. Charlie's campaign, yeah, I agree, especially in the case of the papers and all of the intellectual property that's already in public. I mean, scraping them and making them readable and usable and searchable is a perfect way to use ChatGPT. So
it also really adds to the data set. You know, we're getting a lot of wrong information on ChatGPT. So when you're putting in your research, you're adding to that correct information that is searchable and findable. So you're actually helping the world.
So that one I was okay with.
That's very optimistic. I like that. Because often you hear, oh, garbage in, garbage out. So, you know, if you have your biases, they're going in. And that's something that we really don't want. So as far as, you know, how you can use this for the nonprofit world, and perhaps this is good for you, George, is how can AI and ChatGPT help in raising funds?
Well, there is, it's probably something more that I would think about in terms of non-ChatGPT AI. It's before ChatGPT came out, and it feels like a bit of a different world. Since then, AI was a lot more focused on what you can do with databases, donor data. Can you do predictive behavior analysis that can help you identify donors, help identify potential donors, upgrades, cancellations? There's a whole body of work that is kind of slowly progressing and moving out, and we're starting to see it in more of the kinds of donor tools that are familiar to nonprofits, like the Razor's Edge and the Salesforce. Those tools are emerging, but it's been a really slow kind of development there. Engaging networks, pushing that forward as well with building around email marketing, but a lot in that really kind of solid base of data analysis and a lot of really good mathematical work around predictive behavior. So that's there, and that's useful, and that's it is ready, and it can be used. But then things kind of all got thrown sideways when ChatGPT came out, and now it's very confusing what makes sense moving forward. ChatGPT changes. It has the potential to change a lot of the way that we work with information of all kinds. So when we're talking about data now for a nonprofit, we're talking about your database, but we're also talking about then what's on the web, what's buried in your old reports, in your libraries, those PDFs that you thought nobody would ever be interested in. It kind of, I don't know if it maybe inverts the funnel somewhat in terms of the way we think about marketing, where we take all of our information and try to distill it down into something really succinct and easily absorbed by people. But I think maybe robots work the other way around. They want more content, and so maybe it's I mean, it's great for an organization like Amnesty where we have many 90 and 100-page reports in PDFs that we think nobody will almost ever read, but maybe that's where our real value is.
Great. And so one of the questions coming in is, what are some examples of how AI could help a nonprofit save time? Because, at the end of the day, time is money. So how can you use that? And I know you mentioned the uploading the documents, but is there any other practical examples that you could share with the audience on how you've used it, or seen a client use it?
Sure. I think how many people have used it? Okay, wow. Right. How many people see the value in it saving? Right. So certainly from a content creation standpoint, there's certainly value there, right? Creating emails, creating ad posts, organic social content, the time input it takes to formulate those posts is it's a lot of manpower, right? It takes a lot of time for somebody to sit and upload those things to Hootsuite, let alone think of the content calendar, let alone actually write the thing. It's not perfect. You'll get content output that is, you kind of go, well, that's okay. And it needs to be reworked, but to provide a foundation wherein organizations can start to rework and massage what it's outputting is incredibly valuable. And certainly for organizations that don't have in-house content teams, if you're the person of one, it's got to feel like you've gotten a new team member. Now, that's the content side. I think certainly, as George is alluding to, and Charlie has spoken about, there's tools that exist now, and certainly tools that seem to be in development that are really going to make a lot of the examination of data and data analysis far easier. I mean, Auto GPT is, essentially being marketed as an autonomous GPT model to make decisions for itself based on data that it's collecting. Chat PDF is a program wherein you upload PDFs, reports, for example, and have it kick back analysis and insight. I think, again, all of this should be taken with a grain of salt because, as Karen alluded to, there's certainly biases in these programs that we need to be aware of. But for smaller organizations, and really even for bigger ones, there's a ton of value in getting a person that doesn't just work 9 to 5. Person is the wrong word. Person is scary.
And, how do you think this will affect the job market? Do you think we'll still be hiring content managers and/or agencies?
Good question.
Somebody had to ask the question.
I think you do need editors. Your agencies might be cheaper, guys. Ask for a discount if they're using it. But it takes a lot of editing. Some of the stuff that comes out of ChatGPT, I have to say it's crap. It's absolute and utter crap. I have to say, my son is a freshman at university, and he was doing a paper on economics, one thing that I really like. And he asked me, Mum, could you look at this bit? I could not remember what that bit was. It was on determinants of a market. So I asked ChatGPT, and it seemed reasonable what it gave me. And then I asked it for the citations, and it gave me citations, which I checked, and every citation went to a 404 page. It was crap. It was made up. It was well made up. But the more shocking thing was there was a statement in his freshman paper that said, if you use ChatGPT to prepare your term paper, then please write 2 paragraphs, only 2, on what you would have done if you hadn't used it. That's scary. That, I don't mind us using it. We're adults. Right? We've learned to read and write, especially those of you who are social scientists or humanities. That's your secret superpower. You know, for engineers or for kids, ChatGPT is just so scary. What if they can't read or think or write? Anyway, I could go on about this for quite a long time, obviously.
I think it's just going to change everything. I don't think you're no longer a content creator, you're a prompt engineer. I think this is just a very different way of looking at things. I also think it really encourages organizations to put more into learning abilities for your staff and investing in them, because all of the work, you know, I recently left the BCSVCA, which I was at for 10 years. They can take all the work that I've done now and upload it and reverse engineer all of those emails and like welcome series and all those things I've done and find exactly what prompts it would take to recreate that. So you can reverse engineer all of your best performing emails, all of your best performing subject lines, and find out what are the prompts that make those happen, because that's the really hard part, is learning how to prompt and like what it is. So
Charlie, can I add to that? That's a great way to
can.
do it. But use the paid service. Use the paid service.
Well, and OpenAI is coming out with a completely closed and enterprise version, so anything, it will be completely closed off and you won't be adding into that. As nonprofits, I actually think you can put you don't have to set it to private, you can put it all out there. I think that a rising tide raises all ships, and we go faster, or we go, if I want to go alone, fast, I go alone. If I want to go further, I go together. That's the proverb. So I really feel like that the more you're adding into it, personally, I feel like it helps everybody. I mean, we're all here to do good things. So I think obviously proprietary stuff, never ever personal data. We would never put our donor data in there. That's personal data, but like you can upload full information on history of giving and say like who are the people that are most likely to lapse. You can just ask GPT, what would I need to tell you to tell me all of those things that I want to know about my donor database? And they'll say, here's exactly what you have to put in a spreadsheet. Here's what you upload. Never, always using constituent IDs, never putting in personal data, but all that information you can get out of it.
Great. And Charlie, I love how you brought up this idea that, yeah, this is new and it's going to affect us, but we can evolve and we can be flexible. And I know that maybe it was like 6 or 7 years ago or so when Instagram released their algorithms and Facebook started doing lookalike audiences, and marketers, flocked to use those and found great success in it. It opened up the ability to then use your mind power to make more creative content. So that, we'll find a way and we'll evolve with it. But going off of that, we did have a question come in from the audience. How much time should a nonprofit invest to understanding the constant stream of AI? Especially now that there's just so much information out there, and you can't go onto LinkedIn without seeing within like 2 seconds somebody talking about AI. So how do you navigate that?
I spend a lot of time and a lot of effort on LinkedIn and other lists trying to keep up, and you can't keep up with it. It's at a pace right now. I don't know how long that'll last, but just when you think there's a bit of solid ground under your feet, then it's gone the next day. We're talking a lot about prompt engineering right now. Because that's kind of the popular way that you work with ChatGPT. But as Trevor mentioned, AutoGPT, like the next generation, it kind of does all the prompt engineering for you if you give it the task and give it the leeway to do it. And maybe it's better at prompt engineering than people are just because it's AI. So, every week it seems like there's something new to deal with.
Yeah, I think, now everybody in this room seems to have tried it, which is certainly step number one. But I think, you know, in terms of a level of commitment, as a percent of your job, I don't think there's a good answer to that. I do think we all sort of have a responsibility to at least figure out what it's capable of. And you know, Kat nicely said that we were a panel of experts. I think maybe first for me personally, that was a bit of a stretch. I think there's a level of interest here at EBU in the industry about how we can better resource an otherwise under-resourced sector, right? And this certainly has the potential to do that. So try it, is what I would say. And there, as of right now, there's no wrong answer. If you run into something that you're not allowed to do, ChatGPT will pretty quickly tell you that you're not allowed to do it.
Yeah, the for-profit sector, anything, especially in tech, it's mandatory to spend 10 minutes a day on with these tools or learning about these tools. That's just part of your workday. You're expected to do it. They're doing weekly meetings. What have you found? What can help us? So we just really need to follow that for-profit sector and follow that model, I think, and just try to stay on top of things as much as possible. Otherwise, we'll fall behind, as we do so often in nonprofit from for-profit.
I love that idea of just 10 minutes a day. I mean, certainly we all can devote 10 minutes a day to learning something new. So that's fantastic. And if you're not sure about the resources and where to go for that, I'm going to give George a little plug. He has a blog. So you can check that out and get your feet wet in all of that.
Karen, let's put that in our resource sheet.
Oh, a cheat sheet, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Well, you can put it on your blog too, Georgia.
Great. So going back to the more practical marketing aspect of this is Bing is going to start using AI for search. How will this change our search strategy?
I don't think we know yet. There's a lot of discussion around what happens if Google search results are no longer where people go looking for information. We've all built marketing programs around how to get SEO placement, how to get an efficient ad program running. Potentially all of this could change. And if you go to ChatGPT and ask, like, who should I donate to help protect the Toronto waterfront from the ecological disaster, it's going to give you an answer. We're not exactly, well, I would say it's not entirely clear to us how it's getting that information, but I think, Charlie, you've got
Yeah, we put it in the cheat sheet, George.
Yeah, we did a deep dive and was asking how it's deciding all of those things, and there was like a 5-point parts to it that we'll put all in the sheet, but like financial transparency and accountability. So all of those reports that you have online, they're in beautiful PDFs. It can't read those, so you're going to have to get those all in text and properly done. And it really wants to know how connected you are to other organizations in the same sector. It really digs into all of your ratings on Charity Navigator, GiveWell, all of those things. So it's never more important to do those things. And that is really, it's really Search 2.0. Do you think it's going to completely change? I don't think SEO is dead yet, or I think it's going to completely change. People are looking, I mean, it's the same. They're looking at, in Instagram and TikTok. People are searching there. So searching is just it's really changing, and we're really in it. And now is the time, because as it gets more up-to-date information, it's all going to be grasping those new things. So definitely, it's completely changed how we planned out our 3-year kind of model on where we're marketing, because a big part was communications like publicized in news. So our new strategy is shift slightly to get more on that kind of old school communication side, because that's going to matter more for search. But yeah,
I think you found that SEO didn't influence where you were. So
yeah.
all the stuff we've worked on for years, right?
That being said, using ChatGPT to ask what are the best SEO search terms for when you're publishing anything, so that you can put those in, really helpful right now.
I wonder if another one of our target audiences becomes robots.
Ooh.
Like, we have to design a content strategy for for the robots.
Aren't we
that are
doing that
coming to
already
our-
for Google? Google is a robot. That's just crawling. We're designing everything for the crawler right now.
Yeah.
So we're already there, George.
We're already there.
I mean, I would
The
say
other robots.
yeah. I would say one of the things that you could start doing is if it's not something you prioritize already internally, is really starting to catalog your digital presence a little bit more effectively. Where are you, either through backlinks and other sources, and just getting a real sense of the environment that you currently are in, because I think for most of us, it's easy to lose track of some of those publications, like just some of the stuff that gets put out about you. And so, you know, if a big piece of this is going to be what does your internet presence look like, you need to understand it to start to sort of make some intentional decisions about how to change it.
Should set an auto GPT for that.
You could do that too.
And it may also mean looking deeper into your own libraries of things that you don't have online, because you don't imagine that there's an audience interest in your annual report from 2012 or something like that. But this information, like more is better for anything related to large language models like ChatGPT. The more data you have available, the more presence you have, the more the algorithm has to work with. So kind of the opposite of what's happened to my mic? Anyways, it's kind of the opposite of the way we're used to working when we think about funneling things down into our websites. That may be. It may be that might, we don't really 100% know yet exactly where it's going to end up.
Great. And so one of the things we've chatted about a bit is how supporters can find organizations to support. But how about the inverse? So we had a question from the audience wondering if you have any insight into using AI for prospect research, i.e. asking for a list of potential donors interested in a certain cause. Kind of creepy, but hey.
Has anyone done that? Charlie, have you done that?
I mean, I'm pretty sure they have limitations on that. They're not going to give any personal data, but it's going to give you areas that you can target, like postal codes and stuff, I think. You could ask, like, what are the richest neighborhoods in these areas so that you can target that. But I think that's pretty available information. That's pretty terrifying.
Yeah, I would hope you can't get that.
No, you shouldn't be able to get, I should have safeguards on that one. But if you...
Yeah.
We've attempted some profiling. Build 3 audiences for a made-up organization. We're actually in the session tomorrow. You'll see the live transcript of it. It's okay. I mean, I would say it's certainly not. It's not traditional market research. It never will be, right? It's not interviewing 1,000 people about their preferences and channel choices. As we've been talking about, the more data that becomes available, certainly it has the capacity to build those profiles. I do think if you're stumped, if you are looking at a digital campaign and looking at the audiences you've tested, and you've exhausted, the ones that are easy to identify, your lookalike audiences and your existing donors and really closely related interest groups, it can be an interesting place to go to establish some new interest audiences. I would just be careful. Now tomorrow's going to be really boring because this is what I'm talking about.
Now you're me.
But I would say be careful about using them as they're given to you, and make sure that you're supplementing them with, your own donor research, because it's amalgamating what it can find about the nonprofit sector, and each organization here is so unique in its value proposition that you really want to make sure you're pulling out groups that align themselves with your value proposition and not just general social impact, which tends to be a lot of what we're getting.
Yeah, so Trevor's right. Test it. Get your pocket protector out and make sure that you do test what the audiences are against your own knowledge. Don't put your own knowledge in GPT, though. Keep it somewhere else.
I mean,
Except if you're Charlie.
well, the lookalike audiences are AI, right? Like
Yeah.
we're already
Yeah.
doing.
Yeah.
We've already given it we've given Facebook all of our information, and they're building off of all organizations. So people that give to this, they're all building. They've done it all. We've already submitted to the beast. So
We can't run.
We can't
what you're
run.
saying.
We're in it. This is it.
We need to accept it, I suppose. And going off of what we've chatted about in the beginning and what we've alluded to here is, what sort of regulations do you foresee governments enacting? What's already in place? And should there be regulations that evolve and come of this, how will they benefit the end user?
It's a good question.
Yeah.
There may be regulations. People are asking, like
Yeah.
a lot of tech leaders are. And Jeffrey Hinton, who is the godfather of AI, he did the first work on neural networks, and he's got a Nobel Prize for it. He just stepped down from his chair position so he could, because he's afraid. It's kind of like this Oppenheimer, maybe. Maybe I'm too doom and gloomy. But I would say prepare for a world where it is regulated and have skills that so if it's suddenly turned off, you can still carry on your business. So don't become reliant on it. Use it as a supplement, as a test. But always, for goodness sake, learn how to read and write. Let me talk to your kids. Mine are too old to say that to them.
I'm hopeful about how this moves forward, though, because we're having discussions like this, and because a lot of these discussions are happening publicly and they're involving governments and the researchers. Like, there is a very active discussion going on about ethics in AI. Imagine if we had these discussions 15 years ago before Facebook rolled out. Imagine how it would have been shaped in a better way. So I'm hopeful in the sense, not that I'm necessarily filled with hope, but I'm more like, I hope that we can do a better job this time.
You're optimistic. I like that. You're hopeful that we'll learn from our mistakes. I appreciate that. Well, we're about at time here, so feel free to chat with the panelists, the expert panelists, after, and we'll move on to our next one. Thank you.